Have you ever thought about what happens when a dream that's thousands of years old suddenly crashes into modern law? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. This is the AI music paradox.
So, picture this. It starts out so simple, right? You've got an idea, maybe just a feeling, a scene playing out in your head. You pull up an AI music generator and you just type it out, a simple prompt for the song you're imagining.
And then, bam, it's like actual magic. Seconds later, the machine just delivers a complete track. We're talking melody, harmony, the whole shebang, just appearing out of thin air. It really feels like you just created something from nothing.
But here's the kicker, and this is where the whole paradox really begins. You came up with the idea, you wrote the prompt, but do you actually own that song? The answer? Well, it's way more complicated and honestly way more fascinating than you probably think. All right, so to even start to answer that question of ownership, we've got to look under the hood. How does a machine even do this? How does a prompt become a song? Okay, so the tech behind all this magic is called generative AI. And it's super important to get this. It's not thinking, it's not feeling. It's basically a super advanced pattern matching machine. It's been fed a massive library of music, and its whole job is to learn what music sounds like, but from a purely statistical point of view.
You can kind of break the whole process down into a three-step dance. First, it learns. The AI just chews through millions of songs, breaking them all down into raw data. Then, it understands. It starts to see the patterns, like which chords tend to follow each other in a pop song, or what kind of rhythms make you think funk. And finally, it creates. It spits out a brand new sequence of data that has a really high chance of sounding like the music it just studied.
So how did they get so darn good at it? Well, one of the coolest methods is called a GAN, which is basically an endless game between two AIs. Think of it like a forger and an art critic. You've got the forger AI who's trying to create music that's so realistic it can fool the critic. And then you've got the critic AI whose only job is to spot the fake. They play this game millions of times, and eventually that forger gets incredibly good at making music that sounds totally real.
Okay, so all of this sounds super futuristic, right? Like a complete game changer that just came out of nowhere. But what if I told you this isn't a new story at all? What if it's just the latest chapter in a book that was started thousands of years ago?
Yeah, that's the thing. This idea of generating music from a set of rules, from pure logic, from math. It's not a new dream. It's an ancient one. We've literally been trying to crack this code for centuries.
I mean, think about it. The journey really starts way back with Pythagoras in ancient Greece, figuring out the simple math behind musical harmony. Then you jump forward to someone like Bach, whose fugues are these unbelievable masterpieces of mathematical logic and emotion, all rolled into one. Fast forward to the 1950s, and you've got the first clunky computers being used for algorithmic composition. So today's AI, it's really just the most powerful tool we've ever invented to chase that same age-old ambition.
So you've got this beautiful straight line stretching back 2,500 years, this incredible story of continuity. And then, bam, that ancient quest just smacks right into a very modern brick wall. And that wall is U.S. copyright law.
And here it is, the whole problem in one sentence, straight from the U.S. Copyright Office. Copyright protection requires human authorship. That's it. If a human didn't create it, you can't copyright it. It's really as simple and as devastating as that. So what does that actually mean? It means that a song made entirely by an AI, just from that simple text prompt we talked about, isn't considered a work of authorship. In the eyes of the law, there's no creator there. It just sees the output of a really fancy calculator. The creative spark, legally speaking, came from the machine, not from you. And look, the Copyright Office is not messing around with this. They've laid out some really clear rules. First, you absolutely have to disclose that you used AI. Second, they've said flat out that just writing the text prompt, nope, that doesn't count as authorship. You have to prove you did more, that you had sufficient human intervention. And if you try to hide it, they can just straight up cancel your registration. Gone.
Okay, so if you can't own the raw stuff the AI spits out, what can you own? Well, that brings us to this really important legal idea called a thin copyright. A thin copyright is exactly what it sounds like. It's a very limited protection. It only covers what you, the human, personally and creatively added on top of the AI's work. You own your edits, your arrangements, your performance, but you never ever own the raw stuff the AI came up with. Let's break that down, because this is key. The lyrics you wrote,
You can copyright those. A unique arrangement you put together? Yep, that's yours. A guitar solo you actually performed over the track? Absolutely. But the melody the AI generated? Nope. The chord progression it came up with? Can't copyright it. That bass instrumental track? That's not yours either. All that stuff, it's basically in the public domain from the moment it's created.
And this is where it gets really wild. Think about the consequences. If someone else uses the same AI and, by complete chance, it generates the exact same melody, and they use it in their song, they haven't done anything wrong. It's not infringement. Why? Because you never actually own that melody to begin with.
So, yeah, this brings us right back to the heart of the paradox, doesn't it? We have a piece of tech that feels like a creative partner, but a legal system that sees it as, well, something else entirely.
When you look at the history, when you look at the technology, this AI is a direct descendant of Pythagoras and Bach. It's the ultimate expression of this ancient human drive to make art out of pure logic. It's the fulfillment of a dream we've had for centuries. But our laws see things differently. History sees a continuous line, but the law draws a big, bright red line, a line between the tool and the user, the formula and the author. It doesn't matter how sophisticated this thing gets, to the law, the AI is just an instrument, like a piano or a guitar. A very, very smart one, but still just a tool, completely incapable of being an author.
And that's where we're left. The law is firm. Authorship has to be human. But these tools, man, they are really starting to blur the lines between just giving an instruction and actually creating something. And as these machines get even better, as they get closer to perfectly executing our ideas, we're all going to have to face a really fundamental question. Where does the tool end, and where does the artist begin?